Hey everyone, Mitch coming up with the Bear Score Studio. Welcome to the show. Now, I usually don't record on the weekends, but, okay, we didn't really have, like, too many leaks for Bloomburrow before spoiler season started, and all of a sudden, a pretty major one came out over the weekend, so take everything I say with a grain of salt because it hasn't been officially confirmed to be a real card, but let's jump into it. So we've got Dragonhawk Fate's Tempest. Now, we kind of knew this card was coming because of the art and because... well, I kind of commented on the Morrow's teaser episode about how there's a legendary creature bird dragon. For some reason, we needed a dragon. Is that just like written into the contract at Wizards? Like, from now, every single set must include a dragon. And they're like, well, Bloomburrow only has like forest creatures. Well, figure it out. Okay. So yeah, we have a bird dragon. That's a thing, apparently. A 5/5 flying bird dragon for 5 mana in red. I will say this card looks incredibly legitimate, obviously, so we'll see if this is actually real or not, but yeah, it looks real. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of creatures you control of power 4 or greater. You may play those cards until your next end step. At the beginning of your next end step, Dragonhawk deals 2 damage to each opponent for each of those cards that are still exiled. So, this is a really cool and interesting... I mean, like, it's like a card engine / win condition all in one, based off of something that is interesting to build around as well, like, you know, creatures with power, again, 4 or greater. So there's a lot of pieces to this, but I really do like the design of this. I also like that it's limited to mono red, because if this was like, oh, it's in Boros, it'd be like, okay, blink, 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 blink. Okay, yeah, you lose. Yeah. But yes, I do like that this is in mono red. I feel like that gives it some flavor, gives it some function. It does a lot of cool red things, like be aggressive, again, enter or attack, of course. We can talk about ways to use and abuse that and get a lot of extra value from that. Utilizing power, utilizing impulse draw, utilizing a bunch of damage. I mean, that is a good amount of damage, even if it just, again, like, let's consider it with just 1, right? Because it is itself. You're still getting, you know, an extra card potentially to utilize. And again, it does say, I believe, again, you may play, which does count lands, so keep that in mind. But again, that's 2 damage per opponent. That's 6 damage in total, every single card that you are not utilizing. Obviously, it can be a lot more when you've got more creatures with power 4 or greater out there. I mean, this could very easily be 5 to 10 creatures, essentially, like, once you really get going. And you could go a couple different directions with that. You could have, like, low-to-the-ground creatures and a good amount of pump effects. And we'll talk about some things here in a little bit. But, of course, like, damage doublers can be considered as well. Yeah, ways to use and abuse that attack trigger. Ways to use and abuse that ETB. There's only so many in red, but we'll talk about some here in a little bit. But I like the design of this card a lot. I'd love to hear from you with your thoughts on this one as well. I think it's a very thought-out design. It's really cool. The only thing I just don't like flavorful-wise is that it's a dragon, but maybe it's because I'm like a Redwall fan when I was a kid, and I'm just like, there's no dragons. It's forest creatures. And also it's like, nope, this is magic, Redwall. Dragon. It's written in the contract. We need dragons. So, yeah, I guess if you're an Ur-Dragon fan, you're like, cool, another potential dragon to consider. Which you definitely could, because in that deck, you have, like, all creatures that are power 4 or greater. So you're like, oh, okay, cool, I have 10 dragons in play. Play this. Impulse draw 10. And then deal 20 damage to each opponent. Yeah, it could be a win condition / card draw engine for you as well there. So yeah, in the 99 of Dragon decks, probably not Bird decks, but Dragon decks, definitely can consider it there. When it comes to like impulse draw type decks, like Prosper type decks, it really depends on like if you have good amount of creatures that are power 4 greater. Just keep that in mind, because yeah, it can give you a good amount of impulse draw throughout the game, as well as another win condition with damage. But yeah, just like as a commander, I can see this one being pretty popular because it does something that is pretty unique for red commanders. Like, it's unique in that it brings, it's all red, right? All the effects are very red, but it brings different aspects together in a very cool way. So yeah, power, impulse draw, damage, all things that are pretty cool. So yeah, and on a 5/5 flyer for 5 mana, it's quite nice. So yeah, let's talk about some cards to consider for this one. Again, with this one, like, again, like with all these episodes, when it comes to new ones, it's like, yeah, make sure you check out that card listing in the description below. Be a little careful because, again, this is technically a leak. It looks incredibly legitimate. It probably is real. Again, if I had to tell you my percentage chance of being real, it's like 99.99999% chance of being real. But maybe wait until it's officially confirmed to pick anything up. But if you're, you know, excited about this, you're just like, hey, play group. If this is real, you think it's real, whatever, like, can I play with it? Cool. Go for it. Okay, well, let's jump at the budget behind the price your picks. So, first up in the budget buys, getting cards are within my budget, less than $1. Voyager Staff, a very good card that is very unique in colors because, Yeah, there's not many effects that do this. Pay 2, sacrifice it, exile target creature, turn the exile card to the battlefield under its owner's control to begin next end step. Basically, blink a creature. Blink is something that is very, very prevalent in 2 colors, blue and white. And that's basically it. So if you're not in those colors, you probably don't have any blink effects. Like, other colors have different ways of doing that. We'll talk about another one here in a second for red. But when it comes to, like, black, you got, like, feign death type effects, kind of, which is, like, not a blink, really, but, like, hey, it died, it came back. Green doesn't really have those kinds of effects. They've got, like, some bounce effects, that kind of stuff, too. But when it comes to red, you can utilize it with this, or utilize it with something else like Cursed Mirror. Artifact for 3, it taps for a red, and you can have enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn except it has haste. So you can clone, like, temporary clone anything on the battlefield, or if you have any other twin flame type effects too. Or you can just be like, okay, let's say 3 mana, get my commander's ETB again, which is massive. Yeah, you lose the copy of it, you lose this, you don't get to utilize it, that's okay. You still have 3 mana to get that ETB, which again, can be an amazing card draw engine for you. Not card draw, but card advantage engine with impulse draw. And also it can be a win condition for you too. So yeah, 3 mana can be well worth that. Of course, other ones like Twin Flame, Heat Shimmer, etc., can definitely be considered too. Flame Rush Rider, a repeatable way that actually takes advantage of combat as well. Whenever it attacks, create a token's copy of another target attacking creature that's tapped and attacking, exile at the end of combat. Again, doesn't really matter that it exiles at the end of the combat because you're making a token copy of a legendary creature. The token just gonna come into play and be like, oh no, I'm legendary, bye. And then all of a sudden, you get that ETB again. And obviously, this plays really well into another way to take advantage of this trigger because, again, not only is it an ETB trigger, but it's also an attack trigger. So, hey, extra combats. Overpowering attack, free running, basically. If your commander did damage, or an assassin, but in this case, commander did damage to a player, which it's got flying, it's going to be able to do so most of the time. You can cast this for just 3, and basically, you get an extra combat. It's got all those, like, you know, untapped and all the things. It's a lot of words for, hey, extra combat. Cool. So basically, again, getting extra combats gets you that trigger again. With Flame Rush Rider, you can obviously double up on that, do it with the ETB as well. It's going to be quite nice. Of course, there's other creatures out there that can help you with extra combats as well. In budget, Port Ranger is a great one. Whenever it deals combat to a player, untap each creature you control after this combat phase, there's a combat phase. And also, it can't attack a player that already attacked that turn. So essentially, you could get multiple combat phases with this. And again, it is a creature that does have 4 power. So again, 4 or greater is definitely something to consider when you're making decisions for this deck, potentially. We also have Scourge of the Throne, yet another one that has 5 power, so more than 4. Dethrone. Also, whenever it attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most life, you get a counter on it. It's got flying. And then whenever it attacks the player that's got the most life or tied for the most life, you also get an extra combat. So again, having these like creatures that have that power that can give you extra combats can be absolutely amazing in combination with this commander that really cares about extra attacks. It cares about creatures that have good amount of power as well. Next up, you can also speed things up as well with the win condition process with this one with like something like Mechanized Warfare. Jam for 3 mana in red. If a red or artifact source you control will deal damage to an opponent or permanent opponent controls, deals that much damage plus 1 instead. 2 is great. I mean, that's a good amount of damage, just like gutter snipe damage essentially, but yeah, on your like weird impulse draw, like leave it there, deal damage thing, okay? Now it's going to be 3 lightning bolt worth every single time. The more and more of these kinds of effects you have in play, obviously the more impactful it's going to be. Embermaw Hellion helps you in 2 ways. It's a 4/5 creature, so again, it's got 4 power. So there you go. Extra impulse draw for you. Another red source you control, again, basically exact same thing. Extra 1 damage, so turns that into 3. Or again, if you had both these in play, it would be 4. And of course, we've got ways like Fiendish Duo, which used to be so expensive when there was only like in one like little set or whatever it was. One little product. But now, it's a 5/5 first striker for 6 mana that's only 46 cents, and it says, if a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double that damage to that player instead. It doubles up your things to opponents as well, and them to each other, which is quite nice, but still, with your commander, instead of it dealing 2, it's now dealing 4, which really speeds things up. I mean, with each damage, with each 1 card that is left out in exile, that is, what, 12 damage in total across your 3 opponents? Plus, obviously, this gives you another card, so yeah. That can be quite nice because it is a 5/5. We also have Ingress Marauders, a 4/4. If a source you control deal damage, it doubles that damage that permanent or player. Again, all these are just great to have in the deck regardless because, yeah, your things can hit harder, your spells hit harder on, again, creatures, any kind of permanent, planeswalker, whatever, but also players, of course. Your commander turns into a 3-shot KO, potentially a 2-shot KO very, very easily with these kinds of things. Maybe even a 1-shot KO. If you have like 2 damage doublers out there, you're like, okay, that'd be close to a 1-shot KO, right? It'd be at 20. But still, if you have any little pump effect, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, that could definitely help. Speaking of the pump effect, Instigator Gang. Attacking creatures you control get +1/+0, so that's nice for a little additional benefit. Just a 2/3, but it does flip over if no spells were cast last turn. Flips over to a 5/5, so again, meets that requirement of power. It's got trample, and it says attacking creatures you control get +3/+0. So, pumping those creatures by an extra 3 makes it so that even if you say have like an army of like little 1/1 tokens, again, you can build this deck in a couple of different ways. You could like try to go wide really quickly and then use like Anthem or pump effects like this one to get them to that point where you just have like so many, like 10 plus creatures that have that 4 power, so it meets that requirement. Or you can just have a decent amount of creatures out there that already have that amount of power like we talked about. Regardless, yeah, that nice pump effect can be great, and of course works well with the damage doubling. Again, you can turn your commander into a 1-2 shot, maybe even a 1-shot KO quite easily, plus all the damage you're going to be doing from those triggers too. You can also have things that like repeatedly get you creatures to make sure that you're like, okay, like I'm set on some creatures as well. And also, it's just a fun card. Raid the Raging Storm. Creatures named Lightning Rager can attack your planeswalkers you control. Beginning of each player's upkeep, they get a 5/1 named Lightning Rager that gets sacrificed at the end step. So you're giving creatures, giving players a creature that can keep swinging at each other, which is quite nice. But keep in mind, you get an extra 5 power creature on your turn to count toward your amount. So basically, just an extra impulse draw coming from this as well. So keep that in mind. It's kind of like extra card advantage, extra temporary card advantage, or extra damage for you too. Speaking of damage, where the damage is coming from is your commander, which is quite nice for, well, taking your opponents out and also just gaining a ton of life yourself. Basilisk Collar. An equipment for 1, mana equipped creature has Death Touch and Lifelink equipped 2. So again, keep in mind that since it's dealing the damage, my goodness, you can just gain so much life every single time. Basically, again, if you've got all 3 opponents still around, for every card that is impulse drawn, out in exile that you don't play, that's 6 life gained every single time if it has Lifelink. So yeah, if you've got, again, say 5 creatures in play, that's 30 life gained if you play none of those spells, essentially, or any of those lands, whatever they are, any of the cards that are out there. So you can gain a ton of life with this. Kind of along those lines, I guess, I should mention, like, you could infect if you really want to. You might not need to go that direction, but you could, like, throw out that 1 infect, equipment. So that could be a way to do it, too. That being said, like Conjurer's Closet, Grafted Exoskeleton, I believe, would be in the pricier picks. So there you go. Conjurer's Closet, though, definitely a pricier pick. Probably a card that will never be in my budget, but that's okay. Artifact for 5. At the beginning of your end step, basically blink a creature. So again, this is just, oh, okay, my commander has an ETB. Probably a good card in that deck for the most part if you really want to use and abuse that. So basically a way to just say, oh, okay, cool, I already got the attack out of it, whatever. Blink it, get the extra impulse draw, extra damage to your opponents. What's not to love about that? Next up, Relentless Assault. Again, basically just an extra combat. Thanks a lot, Ishin, for making all these incredibly expensive. Meanie. But basically, yes, any kind of extra combat can be great because it's like, okay, 4 mana, impulse draw. Again, how many creatures do I have that have power 4 greater? Plus all that damage you're going to be dealing out for the cards that you end up not playing. Quite nice. Also with this, though, you can just do like an extra combat just for your commander with round 2, which is actually seize the day. This is the cheapest version of it, apparently at $9. My goodness. Basically, untap a creature, get an extra combat. You're going to untap your commander, swing again. You can also flash this back again. So yeah, that can be a lot of extra impulse draw, a lot of extra damage. Morog is going to be a way to pump your commander with extra combats, essentially. +1/+0 for each time an attack this turn, so that can be quite nice. But on top of that, actually in all your creatures too. So being able to get to, again, potentially that 4+ power. This itself already has well more than 4 power. On top of that, whenever your lands come into play, essentially, you're getting extra combats. Be careful when you're actually playing those lands because it does matter when you do play them to untap and etc, etc, etc. So keep that in mind. Next up, Torbrand, Thane of Red, fell barely out of my budget. Please reprint it. 2/4 Dwarf Noble for 4 mana. If a red source you control deal damage to opponent permanent they control, that match +2 instead. So basically, again, doubling up that initial amount of 2. That can really speed things up for you. Sulfa Mayhem Dominus, a very good card. 5/4, so again, has that power that matters. If a source you control will deal damage, non-combat damage to an opponent or opponent controls deals double that damage instead. You can also get this an indestructible counter on it very easily by discarding 2 cards and basically paying 1 mana and 4 life. Yes, this can be really hard to deal with, which is quite nice for you. But yeah, doubling it up can be crazy. The more and more of these like doubling and also, extra damage like Torbrand's effect or extra 1 damage really can add up, and all of a sudden, like, your opponents are taken out in absolutely no time. Gratuitous Violence. If a creature control deal damage to a creature or player, double up that damage as well. There's a lot of these. City on Fire. Hey, triple damage as well with this one. Yeah, that's quite nice. You can convoke it out too. So again, if you are going with that kind of like go wide creature strategy, we just have a lot of like low to the ground creatures out, and then you essentially pump them as well. Yeah, you can really get this out quite easily. Triples up all your damage. So again, even if you just get this out with your commander, every single one of your impulse draws with it is basically like, oh, okay, 6 damage per card I don't play to each opponent. That's 18 damage in total for all 3 opponents. Again, in just a base example, like you have 5 creatures in play that power 4 or greater. Yeah, good luck to your opponent surviving. 30 damage to each of them. Wow, that adds up quickly. Keeper of Secrets, speaking of added up, you can actually utilize creatures, or I guess other effects as well, that really take advantage of when you're playing things from exile, like the Prosper type cards, essentially. 6/4, first strike haste, so again, meets that, power requirement. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, which counts exile, deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. So again, if you are actually casting those spells, like, you can go in like multiple ways with this. Obviously, there's kind of like a push and pull with this, which I really like, where it's like, okay, I'm benefited by playing those cards, obviously, but I'm also benefited for not playing them. This kind of gives you an avenue to say, even if I do choose to cast a spell that I really want, because it is extra value, right? It's extra impulse draw, I can still get some damage out of it. And again, it is more targeted. So I'm like, okay, I still hurt that opponent for playing something. So there you go. It can be quite nice with that. And of course, Witch's Clinic. I mean, ways to just get lifelink. We already talked about why that's good with this commander. You can gain so much life so quickly with this. Whenever your commander is dishing out damage in this kind of a way, which is like non-combat, make sure you're considering these types of cards, because your life total can just skyrocket to an untouchable place, essentially. And this is just an easy one to just throw into a deck. If you got $10 for it, apparently, my goodness, that's expensive. Tap for a colorless, pay 2, tap, target commander gains lifelink until I'm turned. Did not realize this was that expensive right now. Makes sense, though, because it's very easy to throw in the deck. Again, it's a monocolor deck. You're not really taking up any spot in the deck, really. You're not like, oh no, I can't play my spells. You can definitely play your spells still with this. And just costs, basically, again, like, it is 2 mana, but it's kind of 3 because you're tapping this as well, so you're denying yourself of this resource. But yeah, that's going to be worth it to pay 3 mana to be like, okay, I get lifelink. Okay, I attack my commander. Okay, I exile 5. Okay, I dish out all this damage. I just gain, again, at a base level, right? 5 times 2 times 3 would be, what, like 30? I just gained 30 life. Cool, I nearly doubled up my life total just for doing one thing. Cool, good for me. Shadow Spear, also a very good one as well. +1/+1 is trample and lifelink. You can pay 1 and punch opponent's control, lose hexproof and indestructible turn. Of course, that can be very good as well. But yes, being able to just slightly pump your commander again can be nice. We talked about how, well, I mean, just say an extra 1 power. If you have a doubler and then another doubler, you basically just can take out a player with like 1 hit with your commander, which can be nice. But of course, the lifelink is quite nice as well. And the trample is a good way to get 3 things through too. So yeah, lots of great cards to consider for this commander. Again, I want to reiterate one more time, this is a leak from what I found. It has not been officially confirmed. Let me know in the comments below if you have found it to be confirmed, and please send the resource for that, or the source for that. But yeah, it appears to be an incredibly legitimate leak to me, and I assume that it's real. Again, like 99.9999999% sure. And I've been wrong in the past, but I don't think I'm wrong about this one. Regardless, if you are interested in this commander, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. Stay tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers. Of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.